Hello friends, welcome to Salesforce Analytics video session 148. So basically in today's video, we will actually understand, the formatting options which are available under the gauge chart or gauge chart, whatever we can way we pronounce it. So let's quickly see in the gauge chart, what are the options which are there. Okay. And we will step by step go ahead from there. So I will once again open this particular data set, the ones with which we have been dealing with all the kinds of charts. So here I will very quickly go to the gauges chart. Now here the first part, as you can see, it's the gauge chart. Okay. So let me first of all click over there. Okay. And this is how this particular thing comes up. As you can see, this is how this cost chart is all about. Fine. Requires one measure, either zero grouping if trellis is disabled or zero to reduce is enabled. Okay. So that's the thing about this gauge chart. So if trellis is disabled or zero, trellis is enabled. So if we enable the trellis somehow, this is how it looks like. Okay, so that's the thing about this gauge chart. But as of now, let's stick to one. Okay, and we will see, like, if it's the count of rows, how the options comes into picture. So straight away what I will do is I will jump to gauge. Okay, now under gauge, if you can see, like it's shown here, shows values as compact number, number or none. Okay, so if you click on number, this is how it shows up, 1200. And if you see a compact number, it basically shows 1.2k. Okay, basically, and if you don't show anything, nothing shows up, the number doesn't show up. Okay, as you can see over here. Fine. Now if you go for none, there's a lot of other things which also comes, like with compact number, and if it is like number, okay, nothing comes up. With compact number, you can have that number of decimal digits. Okay, you can choose that number of decimal digits. Like if for example I want 2, then as you can see, it's showing 1.22k, right? So that's the way. If I show up till 3, okay, it shows up till 3. Basically up till 3 we don't have that value, that's why it's not showing up. So you can go for default. I think that's completely fine. Okay, and that's how it will show up. It will go for compact number. For number, of course, there's no such option, and if you mention none, that value will disappear, of course. Show band percentage. So if I disable this option, as you can see, like, that percentage, like 1.2k percentage, that won't show up if I disable this option. Okay, and if I disable the show band range, basically this band range, that is 66 to 1200, right? That is the high value, 66 to 1200. That range won't show up. Okay, as you can see over here. And if I remove the band label, basically this band label that it's on a high format, that won't show up. Okay, we will of course check this by bringing one trellis as well. But as of now, let's check without bringing the trellis. Okay, how this shows up. So as of now, I'm going for everything which is over here. Gauge angle, as you can see, it's 240. Like if I want to go for 90, this is how it will show up. So it will be till 90 degree. Okay, this whole thing. Similarly, if I go for 120, it will increase a bit more. Okay, if I go for 180, this is how it will look like. Okay, and it's 240, it's like this, and 270, it is like this one. Okay, so you can actually increase or decrease the gauge angle depending upon how beautiful you want the presentation or how clean you want the presentation to look like. And it varies. It depends upon, what kind of values, what kind of trailers you have. It depends upon that part a lot. Okay, then basically comes the range values. So you have the minimum value of the low color band and you have the maximum value of the high color band. So let's say I choose the minimum as something like 4. Okay, so it shows up clear 4, or let's say I choose something like 50. Okay, so if I choose 50, as you can see, that's the low color band over here. And let's say for maximum, if I choose something like 10,000, okay, so this is how this will look like. Okay, for 10,000, fine. So this is the, like, as you can see, that cursor shift over because the high value I've chosen minimum. So as you can see here, minimum value of the low color band, and it is like maximum value of the high color band. Okay, that's how it looks like. Okay, but as of now, I think that's fine. We can keep it as 0 and 100. That's how this full part will show up. Like if I mention it as 50, I think somewhere in the middle it will show up, I guess. Okay, so after 50, basically the color will change over here. Okay, that is fine. Now, of course, the trellis, show as trellis. Like if you bring one trellis, now we will check what that part comes into picture. But basically, this is how this whole thing about gauge is. Like we can show the value as compact number, number, or none. Okay, and the default value of the decimal place we can choose. If we choose for the compact number, when you go for none or number, nothing, that none, no such option of number of decimal digits comes into picture. Now if you disable the band percentage, basically this percentage which you see 2.4k, that won't come up. Okay, and if you disable the band range, basically the 66 to 1200, which is the band range, that won't show up. Okay, and finally when you have something like show band level, basically that also won't show up. Okay, that's the thing about this one. Fine. So I think minimum is 0 and maximum is 100, which is fine. Now what we will do is we will also check the trellis part. So let's say under trellis, if I bring something like, I guess the stage bucket will make sense because we have two values. I think we can check out by that. Okay. Now here also, if you see, okay, uh, this is the gauge angle which we have. Let's say this is 240, which is fine. Now if I disable the band percentage, as you can see, that will come up. If I disable the band range, okay, if I disable the band level, that's how this whole thing comes up. Okay, as you can see over here. Now minimum, let's say I go for 100. Okay, and the maximum maybe I can go for 500. Okay. If you go for minimum 100 and maximum 500, as you can see, this is how the whole thing looks like. Okay, the color range. Okay, now when I enable the trellis, as you can see, further options came up. So when trellis was not there, this box itself was visible, show as trellis. Okay, when you enable the trellis option, automatically that box will become enabled. You won't have that option to disable it off from here until you remove from here. Okay, from the left side of it. Now here, if you see, one extra option is coming up, which is show grid lines, right? So basically, if I just disable this one, okay, with grid lines, I don't know if you can observe this, but I'm quite sure it will be difficult for you. What I will do is I will take some different example and show you. But even if I try with a bit of here, like if I present the full screen, okay, you will see that if you see my cursor, there's some grid lines over here, right? You observe my cursor. So, there's like some box kind of a structure, okay, where these two are classified. Fine. So basically between these two, there's a partition, which is there a very thin line. I think if you do it yourself, you will get to observe that more. I'm trying my best to make you observe through my cursor. Okay. Now, what happens if I disable that part? That is, show the grid lines when you have this particular trellis enabled. When you disable this option, okay, and now if I go for the present mode, that particular grid lines are not there. The ones which were segregating between those two, those are not there anymore. Okay, so that's it about this show as split. Okay, and finally we have something called as split labels. So what I will do is I will just enable this option. So basically the labels which you see at the top, closed stages and open stages, that will flip to the bottom. Okay, now what is the types? Create separate graphs based on grouping. So this is like in horizontal. Suppose if I want it to be in vertical, okay, this way, it's going to be in this way. Okay, let's say I want that labels to be there itself. So earlier it was in horizontal, now you can make it vertical. That's the thing about type. Like it shows like how will you separate groups, separate the graphs. Okay, how will you create the separations between graph based on groupings? If you go for matrix, I think we can see for a different trellis, because with stage bucket with two options, I guess we will not be able to see that option. Okay, so what I will do is I will quickly just create one more, and maybe I will bring something called as the industry over here. Okay, so very quickly, let me bring the industry, and of course the chart I will go for is 𝑏𝒂𝒖𝒈 chart. And now this is fine. Now if I directly jump into the formatting section, and here basically if you go to the trellis option, so here of course the grid line is there, which is fine. Now if I go for matrix, as you can see, like this is how it looks like. Okay, in horizontal this is how it will look like, and when you go for matrix, basically this is how the whole matrix will look like. I don't think so there's that much of a difference between the horizontal and matrix if I can observe it very carefully, which is fine. Okay, and finally we have something called as graph. So basically graph is like, it's going to like accommodate itself. Okay, so I think here I think we can observe that properly. As you can see, I have this scroll bar where I have to scroll too much on the right. Now if we can go for graph, okay, it will try to accommodate itself fine as much as possible. Okay? So basically what happens is, like, I hope you understood the difference. Like if you go for horizontal matrix, okay, you can see up till like here we have till education. If I go for industry, and after that I have to scroll a bit on the right. Okay, electronics manufacturing, then from media to utility. So there's a lot of it. Now what happens is basically when you wrap it, it will increase the portion of the horizontal and vertical just to ensure everything gets fit in and you don't have to scroll to the right. For example, if I go for matrix right now, okay, you see, I'm able to see everything on my horizontal part and vertical part as much as I can, and then of course I have to scroll down. Okay, so basically that's bringing under one particular box kind of a thing. Okay, if you go for this wrap option. Now, number of lines per chart, of course, this will not be applicable over here. But let's say if I go for wrap, okay, and or let's me do one thing. Let me go for horizontal. Okay, in horizontal I won't have that option, and on vertical also I won't have that option. Okay, on matrix I also don't have that option. Under wrap I have this option of number of lines per chart. Okay, when you are wrapping, you have that option of choosing the number of lines per chart. Maybe what I can do is I can go for 8. Okay, now if I go for 8, I think everything is fitting into it. So that's the beautiful thing about this. If I go for 7, that's also fitting. Maybe I can go for 6. I think in that case, everything will fit in. Okay, shifted a bit here. I think 7 makes sense. Or I think definitely 8 will make much more sense. Okay. Yeah, 8 will make much more sense. It will make a bit neat over here. Okay. So that's the thing about this one. Now, if I go back to that option, so under wrap, you have that option of choosing. Like here, of course, that's not needed. Okay, maybe if I choose for 1, I think that will make it much more bigger. If I go for 2, that is like this will fit in, but I think the 4 is also fine. After that, it doesn't matter. Like if you have 2 options only, after it doesn't matter even choose you 8, it will be as it is. Okay, that's the thing about this one. Now size ratio, what is mentioned, set trellis size by width and height ratio. So basically you have this small square. Okay, the square, if you make it big square, I think here it won't matter. Okay, whatever we do. So ultra fat, as you can see, the size ratio, if you go for ultra fat, these are some of the ratio which you have. Okay, if you go for flat, this is how it will be a little bit bigger. Okay, and if you go for big square, this is how it will look like. Not much of a difference I can see. Maybe we can try something over here. So here you have something called a square. What I can do is I will straight away jump to horizontal. Okay, and maybe if I go for small square, again, this is how it will look like. As you can see, many small squares are there. Okay, the size is small. If you go for square, it's a little bit bigger. Then there are too many options. If you go for big square, it will appear as big as this one. Okay, and if you go for ultra fat, this is how it will appear. And if you go for flat, so basically these are some of the things you can play around and check how you want to adjust the size ratio. So it will set the release size by width and height ratio. By width and height ratio, it will basically set the release size. Okay, so yeah, this is one of the important concepts, and maybe very quickly I can save it as formatting options under yeah, I think I can set this one itself, formatting options under 𝑏𝒂𝒖𝒈𝒆 chart. Then I just save it in my recipe data set. So yeah, of course, that's the everything about this particular thing about cost chart. I hope you understood. Of course, a few things always remain same. The general properties as well as the conditional formatting. Surprisingly, you don't have many other options which you usually see in some other chart. That is something you must have seen observed over here. Okay, and under range values, you can mention the minimum or maximum. And when you go to the gauge, you can choose the value as like you want to go complete number none. You can just choose the decimal number of decimal digits, and you have that option of showing the band percentage, bandage, and band value as well as the gauge angle. You can choose the minimum, maximum, and when you go for the trellis option, definitely you have that extra option of showing the grid lines of flipping the level, and you can go for the type how you want that presentation to come into picture. You can just read the definitions over here. Okay, so yeah, that's it about this one formatting options under the gauge chart, and in the next video we will understand about the polar gauge chart. Okay, so yeah, that's it, and yeah, let's meet very soon in our next video.